Hey, what up, YouTube? I just wanted to make a quick video chatting a little bit about the goings-ons with NIU. Um, I don't think there's really much happening on our end other than recruitment and whatnot. When it comes to conference level stuff, we still have no actual update on where the rest of our sports will land. Surprisingly, interestingly, I mean, we could maybe see a world where NIU is in the Mountain West for football, but still is in the MAC for everything else. It could happen. It could happen. Based on the way things were being said at the announcement of NIU going to join the Mountain West in football. It seemed like it was a very specific wording was being made by the president, but also AD Frazier. So it's like, I mean, you got two people literally saying we're members of the MAC and we'll weigh our options, I guess, when the day comes or whatever, but we're members of the MAC basically. And I'm like, I mean, it was said that there have been other conferences that they have been in talks with. So it's not a situation of there's absolutely nobody. But I mean, interestingly enough, it was kind of being made to seem like there is some slight chance, some potential something where NIU could still have a place in the Mid-American Conference for the rest of its sports. Realistically, I mean, it probably would just be more beneficial to try to get into Missouri Valley, Horizon League, Ohio Valley, something like that, just purely for the simple fact, especially Missouri Valley. If NIU can get into the Missouri Valley, you're now about to save a ton of money on travel, right? Because we have so many in-state teams we play against, like the Missouri Valley just might as well be the Illinois Conference or something like that, right? There's that many Illinois schools in it. Even Ohio Valley would be beneficial when it comes to travel and things of that nature for NIU sports. But the one thing that could basically be said, NIU's for sure going to the Mountain West, and we don't know where everything else is going. No clue. Now, when it comes to speculation and things that are being said and things that people are hearing when it comes to the Mountain West and the PAC, right now you got the Pacific Athletic Conference that are supposedly in talks with Texas State. I want to say this is kind of going back to January when we heard that there were talks between the Pacific Athletic Conference and Texas State, but there hasn't really been much else that anybody has heard, if we're being honest. So my thing there, what I think is going on between those two is reality is kind of hit a bit for Texas State, is that, well, they're starting to see potentially maybe the reason why Memphis and Tulane and UConn and all these schools have declined to join them, right? And it's been reported already that, you know, there was a school that was this close to sealing the deal with the PAC that would have been a huge addition for them. It could have been that, you know, that it could have been a school that if they decide to join the PAC, you may see a few dominoes begin to start falling for the PAC. But the school didn't join. A lot of people, a lot of the speculation, I think it's almost kind of more of a confirmation, but we'll just stick to speculation, was that that school was UConn. And I don't think it would have just been UConn as a football member. I think it would have been the PAC trying to bring in UConn as a full member, football, basketball, everything that works. And like I said, supposedly they got real close to making it happen, but it just didn't happen. Maybe it was just UConn as a football-only member, and then maybe talks of basketball down the line. But the difference is, you know, what it seems like is going on is whatever deal the PAC is offering schools is just, there's something a part of these offerings that is real not worth it, right? Because like I said, to have the schools turn down joining the PAC that have turned it down, and the thing is, we'll never truly know who all they may have actually reached out to, but it does seem like UConn, Tulane, and Memphis for sure. Like, those are confirmed ones. At least Memphis is for sure confirmed. I don't know if I've heard anything from Tulane's AD or anything like that, but I do think that they did come out and make a statement. But Memphis has been very out in the open about their communication with the Pacific Athletic Conference. And they're like, we spoke to them during XYZ time. It was not a deal that was good for us. And we have not spoke since. So the thing that's crazy to me is, like, you have Memphis literally saying that, and then you still have PAC fans, these PAC fans who are on social media who swear up and down that the amount that the PAC is gonna still end up landing Memphis. Or I'm like, it's not gonna happen. Like, if it were going to happen, it would have happened by now. This is why, simply put, the reason why the PAC can't land Memphis or Tulane or any of those schools. But the PAC, and I'm sure the PAC does realize this, but they also don't realize this. PAC, you're targeting the two highest, let's say highest prestige, right? These are the two highest prestige schools in that conference, right? It's literally Memphis and Tulane, right? You had Cincinnati, UCF, SMU, Houston. They're all gone, right? If those schools are still there, then maybe, just maybe, right, you could say that the AAC has a solid 6 programs that are pretty good, right? But those schools aren't there. Repeat, those schools, SMU, Cincinnati, Houston, UCF, are gone. Now it's literally kind of just Tulane and Memphis as full members, who the conference can be like, we can give you this to stay, right? We know that other schools, other conferences, I mean, are going to look at you all soon, if not already, to potentially join their conference next. Like, the AAC, like I said, it's just continuing the tradition of being picked apart. Like, this goes back to the Big East. It was the Big East, and then all those schools ran for the hills. And then it became the AAC, and you still had a couple schools left. And then eventually down the line, more schools are getting, picked off by power conferences. And then, right, the fact that still to this day, you still, right now, if you were to look across the landscape of college football and look at the group of 5, right, I'm still going to say group of 5, not group of 6 just yet, right? Let's wait till 2026 gets here and we start that season to see where the dust settles and what's going on exactly. But the group of 5, you could still say the AAC has the 2 schools from the group of 5 that would more than likely be the first 2 to go. And it's crazy to make that statement when you have Boise State that made it to the college football playoff. You honestly do still have, I truly feel like, a higher chance likelihood, right, where Tulane and Memphis have a higher chance of potentially ending up in a power conference than Boise State does. And I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like it's the truth. Will Boise State eventually get something? Like, I'd be truly shocked if we go another 50 years and Boise State just never makes it to the Big 12 or anything like that. Like, that would really kind of be crazy, because it'd have been like, what did Boise State do wrong? Right? Because, right, if they eventually hit the academic status, right, R1, academic status and whatnot, right, you got the program. It's one of the winningest programs in college football, right? They're clearly putting money into athletics. So, like, you got everything that would essentially put them at power conference standards. They just aren't getting the chance and opportunity, right? And right, we live in a world now where there are no boundaries. There's no regional boundaries, geographical boundaries. It don't matter. You got Cal and Stanford in the ACC. They're flying across the country to compete. So none of that matters anymore. Like, let's be honest. If the ACC wanted to add Boise, they could. If the Big 12 wanted to add Boise, they could. They just aren't. They just aren't. Right? You might see San Diego State still, to this day, you could see San Diego State end up in the Big 12 before Boise State does. So it's kind of crazy how all this is working out. But I say what I say because of value. Memphis and Tulane are two valuable programs. You got to realize also USF. USF is a valuable program. Even ECU, Eastern Carolina, at the G5 level, they're putting money into their athletics, right? It's up there. It is. They may not be performing at the level they were years back, because I remember at one point ECU was like pretty legit. Like, I was just sure ECU was going to be the next school getting tapped on the shoulder, right? Maybe they end up in the ACC, maybe they go to the Big 12, they end up somewhere. But it didn't really necessarily pan out that way. You ended up, like I said, seeing Cincinnati perform at this super high level, right? You had Houston performing at this really high level, right? In football, some years in football, but basketball, they've been super solid. And it's Houston, right? UCF, Central Florida, Orlando, right? Because they're in Florida, right? They've been able to amass this ridiculous enrollment. And it's just like, where did UCF come from? Like, UCF is relatively young at the FBS level, yet they've been able to attain power conference status in 2 decades. They were able to make it happen. So, I mean, I'm not super shocked by that, because when you look at the state of Florida and how things operated, right, tuition costs nothing. So you're able to have a ton of students when the price per credit hour is only like $100. Like, the education in Florida, I'm not saying that the quality of education is bad, but the value, top tier, because you're paying barely anything. You're paying barely anything to go to school in Florida. Yeah, the value of those schools is pretty decent. And because the AAC is aware of the value of their schools, well, guess what, PAC? If the PAC gets a $10 million media rights payout, that's not enough. You would think that should be enough. It's not. You got to look at it like this. The AAC has 15 member schools, but 2 of those 15 are football only, and 1 of the 15 doesn't participate in football. Meaning you have a nice little chunk of funds that can essentially be distributed elsewhere. Now, like I said, if I look at the history of the conference, Big East to AAC, AAC to now, right, and the schools that have come and gone, well, once SMU, UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati left, like I said, the last two priority targets, that are clearly Memphis and Tulane. So you can best believe Memphis and Tulane are probably getting a slightly bigger piece of the pie in comparison to other schools in the conference. Like Charlotte is not getting as much of a cut as Tulane. They're not. Let's be for real. Charlotte is not getting as much of a cut as Tulane. That's pretty right. North Texas is not getting as much of a cut as Memphis. Right? They just aren't. They aren't. AAC is protecting their schools. And it would have taken the PAC a significant number to get those two schools. And that's what the PAC, and when I say the PAC, I really mean by the PAC fans. That's what the PAC fans don't understand. If you're going to try to get Memphis or Tulane, the PAC probably would have really needed closer, like straight up. They would have needed closer to 20 mil. Actually, I don't even think that's enough. Because, like I said, we got this whole media rights deal. And let's look up, what is the exit fee for the AAC? That exit fee is kind of significant. According to current information, right? Let's look. And this is Bleacher Report. I guess we can say we got a credible source for the most part. Right? When was this posted? September 21st, 2024. I don't know why PAC fans don't talk about this, but they need to understand. They act like this is just gonna, right? PAC they're not willing to dish the money to help cover these exit fees, right? You don't know what that number is? AAC schools face $27.5 million exit fee amid Pac-12 conference realignment rumors. The Pac-12, for a conference that doesn't even know what their media rights deal is, y'all don't even know what y'all pay out. If y'all only end up with 10 mil, if the PAC only ends up with a $10 million payout, what that really says, it would take 3 years before Memphis or Tulane even start to even see any of that money. That's basically kind of what it's saying. Leaving the American Athletic Conference for a new wave Pac-12 will be an expensive endeavor. Pete Thamel of ESPN reported that the exit cost for AAC schools to depart the conference is nearly $27.5 million per school for them to join the Pac-12 for the 2026 season. Source: as AAC schools are weighing interest from the Pac-12, the schools are facing a potential exit cost of, yada, yada, yada. Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, and South Florida are current AAC teams that have been contacted by representatives from the new Pac-12. Yeah, PAC, y'all are not getting these schools. Y'all are not getting these schools. Y'all have lost it. Those teams were taken Oh wait, let's go back. Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, and South Florida are current yada yada yada. The Pac-12 currently consists of Oregon State and Washington State, but has confirmed the additions of Boise, Colorado State, San Diego State, Fresno State. Are we missing one? In Utah State. I guess when this was written, Utah State might have not even flipped at that point, but Utah State's on that list as well. Those teams were taken from the Mountain West Conference and will have to pay an exit fee of $17 million. The Pac-12 is expected to help offset these costs for those 4 teams. Now, we all currently know folks are trying to sue and this, that, the other, and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. The conference could use a similar strategy with potential AAC teams, but the steeper price could make that difficult. Additionally, the AAC already has an established television deal that is estimated to be in the 8 to 9 million range. The Pac-12 does not have a deal in place, and the valuation is expected to be in the $10 to $12 million range. This would likely be dependent on bringing in solid brands from the AAC and forming a conference that towers above the other non-power conferences. Still, the slight increase in television revenue would come with a high exit fee and significant travel for teams across all sports. The PAC, y'all are not getting any of those schools. Because if y'all already have 5 Mountain West schools sitting here trying to sue to not, well, let's say not pay, but you got 5 Mountain West schools who are trying to sue the conference over the exit fees they owe. And we know more than likely what would really end up happening is either A, they end up having to pay that full amount each, or there's more of a, they settle on a number that's a little bit less, right? That's how this really works. That's the reason why they've taken that to court. But then there's also the Mountain West trying to collect for the poaching of the schools in general, right? And then, of course, we get to the whole, the PAC, they were under duress, yada, 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 bullshit. Yeah. So you have a combination of, you most likely have Memphis and Tulane who are getting a little bit more. I would not be surprised if they're getting a little bit more than everybody else. And then on top of that, the exit fee number. So first, you'd have to be able to pay them more than what they're already getting. And then whatever that number is you are paying them needs to be significant enough to get them to be like, you know what, yeah, this exit fee is this much, but how much we're gonna make in a year or two is worth it. That's the reason why SMU was able to leave and not trip that much. Right? They were able to leave and not really trip about it. SMU is making a nice chunk of change, I'm pretty sure, being in the ACC. And the thing is, we know SMU owes. We know SMU owes the AAC some money. SMU receives about 10 to 12 million annually from the ACC. This is about 25% of the ACC's distribution share. The money comes from the NCAA tournament, yada, yada, yada. SMU moves to the ACC was a big financial risk because the school gave up 9 years of television revenue to make up for this. SMU boosters pledged to donate $200 million over those 9 years. So that's a move SMU can make, because that Texas money is different. SMU, you got to understand, SMU, what is SMU's endowment? SMU got money. I don't think I was ever worried about SMU. But like I said, SMU left. I think SMU barely even gave notice that they were, like, they just, like, SMU got a $2 billion endowment. So I know endowment doesn't tie in with how athletics funding and all that stuff works, but long story short, anybody knows and understands SMU was going to be fine, right? The risk did not outdo the reward in the long run. But yeah, like SMU will be okay by the end of things. Right, I might even look at, right, we got to look at certain things. How much is Cincinnati? Like, how much is their split, right? So Cincinnati got 18 million in revenue from the Big 12 during the 23-24 year. And this is a partial share. In 25-26, they'll get 19 million. And then in 26-27, they'll get a full equal share, right? So at the end of the day, these numbers work out. Percentages work in certain ways until certain things, happen. Let me see one more thing real quick. Come on. Right. Even then, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston all still paid an $18 million exit fee. Not combined, like each one of them paid an $18 million exit fee. So you gotta understand, money, major amounts of money is involved in this. Major amounts of money are involved in this. The PAC was not, they're not getting Memphis or Tulane. It's not happening. They're not really getting any school. They're not getting anybody from the AAC based on how things are working in the AAC and how much money is owed. That's the reason why. The PAC would have been able, or would have to have been able to guarantee power conference type of money to be able to truly lure in Memphis and Tulane. And all they had was 8 schools, one being Gonzaga and the other one being Boise. Gonzaga is your best school, I guess, technically on the basketball side. Boise State is your best school on the football side. To me, Washington State and Oregon State don't have this value that they think they have, because if they had this value, they would not have been abandoned. San Diego State may not be the best football team or football program. I mean, actually, San Diego State has had its years. Let's not act like San Diego State isn't solid. Like, San Diego State is pretty good. San Diego State has had its years, and San Diego State has been one of the, San Diego State has been brought up a few times now as a conference edition, right? If that makes sense. They've been brought up a few times now as a conference edition. I think their name was thrown out there with the Big 12, but I think San Diego State's name for sure was involved with the Pacific Athletic Conference back when USC and UCLA left. It was supposed to be SMU and San Diego State that were going to join the PAC, and they were not added. And now we see what we see today. Now we have a PAC that's holding on for dear life, a PAC that called themselves trimming off the fat because we're better than, and now they're starting to find out, oh, we don't have the muscle to flex that we thought we did to get all these schools to join us. it's not working out for them. They're not going to get any of the AAC schools because the money ain't good enough. I don't know if there's a deal that the PAC could offer to make it worthwhile for them at this point. There's no deal that they could offer to make it worthwhile. The PAC, if they wanted to seriously make something happen where we want you, right? We want to create essentially the best of the group of five. We want to create a best of the group of five. We have 7 schools here now for football, at least, right? We understand you all are over there. So we want to accommodate in some way, shape, or form. And we need to get 7 schools further east. The PAC, I guess, just did not understand this. Because if the PAC would have gone that route, they could have created a situation where it's like, you know what? This actually can work. We're not sending our school to California and Hawaii and over here every other week, right? We have like the Eastern division, or I guess you could say, of the PAC easily could have been, right? If you get Memphis and Tulane, that's your 2 to start with. You're probably like, okay, we need some Texas schools. So our options are Texas State, Sam Houston, UTSA, North Texas, Rice. Like, you got 5 options when it comes to Texas schools. But if you're going to try to make the best of, you're probably trying to get UTSA and I guess North Texas. Maybe UTSA and Texas State. So now you got 4. Maybe you do UTSA, Texas State, and Rice. People are like, why Rice? Rice has money. Rice is a top tier academic institution. Rice, whether you want to believe it or not, the conference benefits from having Rice. Rice would basically end up being the let me look at all the schools involved. For the most part, Rice basically would have been the new Stanford for the PAC. Like, that's how academically good Rice is. It is a top tier engineering university. It's one of the best schools in the country. So Rice is your academic powerhouse, right? People got to remember the PAC had a few really top tier academic schools. It wasn't just Stanford. Like, UC Berkeley is up there. USC is a top school academically as well. Like, you had multiple really good academic institutions. So you kind of still want to add a few brain schools where you can, if we're being honest, right? Let's say, like I said, you got Memphis and Tulane. Let's say you add UTSA, Rice, and Texas State, right? Or maybe you just add UTSA and Texas State. So now you're at 4. It now becomes a situation of, okay, do we want to go far east? Like, are we trying to truly dip into the Eastern Standard Time? You know, do we add USF? Or are they just a little too far east? Like, what exactly are we trying to do? Like I said, Memphis, Tulane, Rice, UTSA, and then you probably could have added NIU. You could have been like, okay, this may not seem like the huge splash move, but we see some value here. Like, let's add Chicago. Let's add that Chicago media market, right? solid football program, right? They're willing to join as a football only member, so that works, right? Let's add NIU. We got Gonzaga, which we know doesn't have football, so let's add NIU, football only member. While we're adding NIU, we could probably add Toledo. So now you're at 6. You just need one more. Maybe you still snag one more from you snag one more from the AAC. Like I said, if you went the UTSA route, if you went Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, and you're like, okay, we're not gonna jack any more schools from that conference, but then you got Texas State. I'm like, would it have hurt to add another school from the Sun Belt? Maybe Marshall, maybe, I don't know. But Marshall could have potentially been an option. Who knows, right? Like I said, there was a way, or, oh, I'm forgetting. What am I talking about? UConn. If I got Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, and then let's say Texas State, or Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, and Rice, right? NIU, let's say Toledo as well, and UConn. You have your 7 on the eastern half, and you got your 7 on the western half, and then you still got Gonzaga added into that situation. And then maybe you still go and add a St. Mary's or something, right? Let's say NIU and Toledo, you convince football only. We're going to, football only. Y'all are getting an 80% cut, yada, 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 right? We're going to add St. Mary's on the basketball end. You have now what? The PAC 16? You got the PAC 16? Or maybe it's not St. Mary's you add. Maybe like Creighton or whoever it is. You got the PAC 16. Probably a pretty, honestly, on paper, that's a pretty decent conference. But it would have taken you all to probably get all these folks on board together and been like, hey, we want to make a Eastern, I guess you can say, not necessarily division, but I guess you can say division, a Eastern division of the PAC. Memphis, Tulane, UConn, Toledo, NIU, Rice, UTSA. U7, Toledo, NIU. We want to add you all as football only members. Potentially full membership can be down the line, yada, 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 right? But football only, we see that can be beneficial for you two for now. Right? They work out whatever deal they work out with UConn. And show them like, okay, if we get Memphis, we got Gonzaga already. We plan on getting St. Mary's as well, right? This will not only be a strong football conference, but a strong basketball conference. This all can work. That's all the PAC had to do. PAC, you should have sold out. You should have been like, we want to make the best of the group of 5. We want to make the strongest conference possible. We're going to expand. We're going to hit all the time zones. The only one we won't hit is Hawaii, I guess. But we have 7 right now for football, 8 total for basketball. We want another 7 that we can add for football. We'll also add, like I said, St. Mary's. That's another planned addition. Right? And then we want to stop it right there. We're going to stop right there at 16 schools. We'll be the PAC 16. We have our partners saying that would bring in a payout for every school involved, all full members. The payout would be the payout would be decent. I think that payout there would be nice. That payout would be probably closer to your 20 mil. That payout would definitely be closer to your 15 to 20 mil range. And then you could probably even begin to argue, is this a power conference? Did we just put together a power conference? You could argue now, right? So is this conference actually worth more than 20 million if you put all these parts together? PAC, I don't know what the approach necessarily was, but yeah, I don't know. I do not know. I get what you were trying to do, but would it have been impossible, per se, to get all of these ADs together at one time? Or maybe you have a few talks. Maybe you have a couple of talks between these athletic directors, this group of athletic directors, though. And be like, this is our vision. This is what we want to do. This is, right? We know, and this is the reason why we're coming to all of you together as a whole, is that we know if we have all of you together to join, the payout would be ... Instead, it was approached a little bit differently, I feel like. And it's like, well, we're just going to approach them. We're just going to approach them. We're just going to approach them. And I'm sure they communicated some things, maybe their vision, what they were trying to do. But at the same time, it's kind of like, yo, y'all could have just, like, you can't tell me that that's not what they did with the Mountain West. You can't tell me that a phone call, a conference call, a meeting had not been had between the PAC and the 5, or I guess 4 Mountain West schools. Oh, no. There was a group call. There was a group chat. And it was like, we want all of y'all. Because you saw all of them all leave at the same exact damn time. That wasn't coincidence. So why couldn't that be done also with these Eastern schools you were trying to add? Because you may have had a little bit better success. Now, once again, you probably got sued out the ass because y'all are just willy-nilly approaching people and trying to, right? But could it have maybe paid off? Who knows? Who knows? It probably would have got you better success because, like I said, if you would have gotten at least one of those, I guess you could say, bigger names involved, if you would have got Memphis to commit, I'm going to be honest. If you get Memphis to roll with that, you probably would have got Tulane. You most likely would have got UConn. You definitely would have NIU and Toledo. Like, that would have been quick, right? But all you would have really needed was one of those bigger names, one of those dominoes to fall. If you would have got one of those dominoes to fall, you would have been golden. Now, let's talk about what really needs to be talked about. Mountain West and PAC potential merger. Since the PAC, like I said, let's be honest, they're not getting any of these other schools. They're not getting in any of those AAC schools, and they weren't able to get UConn. So now they need to look at Texas State. They may even be looking at Sacramento State down the line. But yeah, they're not getting the schools that they wanted, and that media rights deal is not going to be what they thought it would be. I joked on Twitter. I was like, if the PAC is valued at 10 mil per school and the Mountain West is valued at 5 mil per school, then basic mental math, 10 plus 5, $15 million if we merge the conferences together. No, I was joking. It ain't that simple. That's not how this math works. You got to think about the number of schools involved. If I'm talking about 10 mil per school in the PAC, but that's only 8 schools, and we can assume that Gonzaga negotiated a full cut, because I think Gonzaga can. I think they have that level of say-so. Gonzaga can negotiate. We want a full cut, football or not. basically you got 8 schools getting 10 mil each. That's some simple math. That's $80 million a year. Most likely they're doing a 6-year deal. So that's $48 million. Wait, hold on. $480 million over those 6 years. That's what I meant to say. The Mountain West, on the other hand, let's say a non-football member but is competing in all sports, just for the sake of mental math, right? Let's say Grand Canyon University and Cal Davis, let's say they get 50%. So 50 plus 50 is 100. This is just for the sake of math. This is for the sake of this making sense. Those 2 schools combine together to make a whole piece. So you got 9 or 8 full members, all sports, football primarily is what we're looking at. You got 1 football only member, which is NIU, and that assumption there is that they're getting an 80% cut. The reason why I believe it's an 80% cut, because I believe Hawaii was getting an 80% cut when they were a football only member. So it would only make sense for NIU to also get an 80% cut. I feel like that makes sense. But if it wasn't 80%, somebody please let me know. Maybe the number was less than that. Hopefully it wasn't. If it was 80%, great. I'll take that for NIU. But for the sake of math, we're just going to say NIU gets a full share, right? Just for the sake of math. If the Mountain West is valued at $5 million per school, and I essentially just said we got 10 schools. Remember, 2 of those schools we're counting as 1, and then we got the 9 schools that are competing in football. And even though NIU is not getting a full percentage, just for the sake of this example, we're giving them a full percentage. So we have 10 schools. And remember, we just said 5 million. 5 million times 10, that's pretty easy. That's $50 million. A 6-year deal. That's a $300 million deal. I'm pretty sure 5 times 10, 50 times 6, 300 million. We said the PACs was, what was it? 48 million, right? No, 480 million. So 300 million. What we really have to do, if you're going to do this math, technically it should be 300 million plus the 480 million that we're valuing the PAC deal at, and you get 780 million. Now this is where the numbers get bad, right? Well, now I have to divide that by 6 again because we're still doing a 6-year deal. And that's $130 million being paid out to the whole conference if we merge them that way. But now you're looking at way more schools, way more programs involved. We're talking about 10 in the Mountain West and then 8 in the PAC. So that's 18. 130 divided by 18. Well, you're going to get 7.2. Right, you're going to get a 7.2. 130. Why are my numbers not working? 130 million divided by 18. 7.2222, whatever. So 7.2 million. That would be beneficial to the Mountain West teams, right? But it's not going to benefit the PAC teams who are like, what? We're not going to take a loss. Like, no. Why would we merge? Here's where I see a merger could happen and why the numbers would be the way they would be. You could see a situation where multiple media outlets, right? So we're talking about Fox, we're talking about ABC via ESPN, right? So Fox, ESPN, the CW, TNT, CBS. I just listed all 5. CW already has their dealings with the PAC. That's why the CW is involved. TNT has his dealings with the Mountain West. That's why TNT is involved. Fox has a history with, I believe they had a history with the PAC as well, but they for sure have a history with the Mountain West right now. That's why they're involved. ESPN, I believe they had a history with the PAC, I think, at one point. So ESPN comes back in. And who am I missing? Did I say? I said CW, I said TNT, I said Fox, ESPN, and CBS. CBS has history with the Mountain West. So I could see a scenario, just being honest, just being straight up, I could see a scenario where if you get all five involved, all five being involved may be like, hey, here's a deal we can work out with y'all. Here's a deal we could do. Because Mountain West, y'all would benefit greatly from this. PAC, it would at least get you closer to a number you thought you would get, right? So the schools involved benefit. Basically, here's the funny part. Every school involved in this except for Oregon State and Washington State would benefit. Oregon State and Washington State, in their last media rights deal before everything imploded, that media rights deal, that payout was about $21 million per school. So Oregon State and Washington State are used to 21 mil. Like, they're used to that number. That's the number that they're familiar with. But guess what? All these Mountain West schools, and NIU and UTEP and Gonzaga and Grand Canyon, those schools have never seen a number. They've never seen 20 mil. They've never been in the tens of millions range. They've never been up there. So if you're already valuing the PAC schools at 10, if I'm these five media conglomerates and we're all willing to work together, instead of paying 8 schools, just 8 schools, $10 million a year, how about we work a deal where instead of 8 schools, we can now get a bit more value for our money? How about we make it 19 schools? Or am I doing that math right now? 9, 10, 11. Yeah. 19 schools. How about we make it 19 schools? We can get 19 schools, and this is on the higher end. This is where I'm getting this number from. Not because I heard somebody else say it. PAC, you 8 schools, I'm going to make this deal worth your while. I'm going to make this deal worth your while. Right? Right now, you're valued at 10. We'll pay you $15 million a year. But you're going to have to lock in for a minute. Like, you're going to have to lock in for a while, right? Like, we just saw that ESPN AAC deal be 12 years, right? I want to say the Pac-12 deal before things went south, I think that deal was 10 years, right? These deals can be lengthy. They can be lengthy. They can have some years on them. If I'm like, if you two merge under the PAC brand, so let's say that that's where, like, certain things have to, right? We got to make certain sacrifices here, right? You two merge. It's going to be the Pacific Athletic Conference, right? The Pac-19 or something like that. that brand stays alive. Mountain West was pretty young in comparison. Let's be honest. The Mountain West is pretty young in comparison. Well, really young in comparison, seeing that the PAC has been around since like the early 1900s, like 1915, I think. You all become the Pacific Athletic Conference, but we want Commissioner Navarez to be the commissioner of this whole thing. We're going to pay y'all $15 million, like I just said, $15 million a year. Everybody involved. But it's going to be a 12-year deal, a 15-year deal, something like, it's going to be a long-term deal. Matter of fact, it might be, they might do something where they're like 15 mil a year, but y'all are locked in for 18 years. That's the deal we can work with y'all. There's no renegotiations, or, you know, maybe the window to renegotiate increased number comes after 14 years. So y'all would have to be under this $15 million number for the next 14 years. And then once we get there, then we're willing to see if we bump it up some more based off of conference performance. So maybe within these 14 years, you all are sending multiple schools have gone to the college football playoff. Let's say within these 14 years, one of y'all won a national championship or some crazy shit like that, right? Let's be realistic. If that happens, that school is definitely being added to a power conference. We ain't got to worry about that one. But like I said, conference performance. Let's say the conference is performing its ass off. Viewership is up. Everybody's eating wealth off of this, right? We're good. Like I said, 5. Those 5 would be in partnership with each other to essentially fund this and make it happen. I don't like hearing that, oh, there's too many mouths to feed. That part don't make sense to me. Why? You currently have the Big Ten with a ton of schools in it. The ACC, ton of schools in it. The SEC, ton of schools in it. The Big 12, ton of schools. Even the AAC is 15 schools. It's 15 programs. Now, yes, it's 15 programs at the group of 5 level. So because it's at the group of 5 level, well, yeah, we can pay y'all a bit less. We're not going to pay y'all the same amount we're paying these power conferences. But if you can get all 5 on board, and it's like, 4 time zones, because we got Hawaii, Pacific, Mountain, and Central. We got 4 time zones. We got 19 schools overall, but we have essentially 16 for football. Not bad, not bad. Let's make this happen. Let's even if it's like 13 mil. 13 mil. They would, I don't see them not making that, like, I don't, like I said, people think it's as simple as, well, yeah, you don't just add those numbers together and you don't just, it's bang for the buck. It's value. If you're telling me we don't just got to pay you 8, 10 mil each, and we can add a whole nother, like, we can literally add another 11 programs, 11 schools, and essentially make this conference, like, we basically would be, this would be the first time in history, in a sense, like, we're kind of basically making y'all conference. We're making y'all play nice together, and we're going to pay y'all. Because essentially this conference for the most part, take up the western half of the country. Yes, I know there's the Big 12, and they're also mixed in there as well, but it'll be a pretty interesting mix. A nice chunk of the Big 12 itself resides in the state of Texas. In this case, we don't even, I guess, well, you got UTEP. So you got one Texas representative in this conference, but you have a nice chunk of schools. What does the Big 12 not have? The Big 12 doesn't have a California team. So that's the trade-off. The PAC has multiple California schools. The Big 12 got Texas schools. The PAC has a school that technically can tap into Chicago. The Big 12, well, yeah, they got the Eastern time zone. They got Cincinnati. They got the West Virginia. They got UCF. But we also have Hawaii, something that nobody else can get, just this conference, right? There's pros and cons. So if these 5 networks are like, you know what? We'll take all 19 of you, put you under the PAC, right? You all are the Pacific Athletic Conference now, because if we're going to be honest, if which one has more value, the PAC does, right? The PAC branding, the history is there. You all are now the Pacific Athletic Conference, and we're going to pay you, like I said, in the perfect world, right? They're not going to double that number. They're not going to be like, oh, well, we're going to go from, well, we were just going to pay these 10 million, but we're going to add all these other schools. So now it's 20. Nah, that's not how that deal's going to work. But if they go from 10 million to a 15 mil payout, and they're like, you know what? This is a $15 million payout. And I got to use that same math I was using before, right? Where we kind of made 2 schools into one. We got 10 plus 8. We got 18 schools, even though it's 19, but 18 schools. 15 times 18 is 270 million. Now, 270 million, like I said, if they were to do something like this, they want long term. They want to be able to control this long term. I would feel like they want to get their money's worth. So this would be, what did I say, 18 years? It's going to be a nice chunk of money. $4.86 billion. $4.86 billion. And you're getting 19 schools. You're getting 19 schools for 18 years. That ain't too bad. That ain't too bad. But, right, maybe even that number's unrealistic. The 15 mil doesn't. Let's say that number's 13 million instead. 13 million times 18 times 18 years. 4.2. Like I said, I wonder if it'd even be crazy to be like, look, that's where the PAC would have their hissy fit. But there is so much power and control these media networks have right now, and it's kind of crazy. The media networks got a bit more power and control in this situation than people realize, because you have 2 conferences, not just one, but 2. You got 2 conferences that need a media rights deal. Look at that. Not 1, but 2. Both conferences need a media rights deal. And it just so happened that one of the conferences that needed a media rights deal stole schools from the other conference that needed a media rights deal. So in reality, it's all the same schools involved. It's all the same area. It's all the same land. If the powers that be, Fox, ABC, CBS, TNT, CW, who else wants to jump in on this? If they want to go into a joint venture and be like, hey, let's throw these schools 13 mil a year, take it or leave it, because y'all ain't in a great situation. What you want to do, 13 mil, every school will get 13 mil. Like, you can't say no to that. And like I said, you got somebody, people have to understand, like, the way they're going to look at it is they want the value for their money. 13 million times 19 schools. No, we ain't even doing 19. Remember, we're doing technically 18, right? Times 18 is $234 million. But remember, like I said, it's 5. Let's say they did an even split. Let's say it was an even split situation. Even split between the 5. That's $46.8 million coming from each person involved. $46.8 million from each person involved. That ain't nothing. Like I said, that's a drop in a bucket, I feel like, for these media networks. This is a drop in a bucket. Now all you gotta do, okay, there's 12 games in a football season, right? You create some little weird calendar, however you want to do it. I don't know. 2 games will be to them, 2 games will be to them, 2 games to them, right? You do that times all these schools. Each network is going to get their little fair extra share piece. They'll figure it out. They'll do the math, right? You can maybe even rotate, right? Like they'll make it happen. They'll make it happen. They got the lawyers, they got the people who can do the numbers on who's going to do what. But they'll make it happen. But if you can get all of them on the same page, which it seems like could be doable, you cannot tell me that you could actually get a $14 to $15 million payout for this merged conference. You could. You merge the conference. Like I said, this is what the conference really is, if we're being honest. It's really the Mountain West Conference. The Mountain West Conference is added Gonzaga, Oregon State, Washington State, UTEP, NIU, UC Davis, and Grand Canyon University. That's what it is. This is the Mountain West went and added 7 schools. And they're trying to go to market, and they're like, hey, we got a lot going on, but we got some value. And we're willing to do a long-term deal. We want all of our schools to eat healthy. Let's make something happen. I think it's doable. Like I said, that $15 million, that 15 million number, this is my logic on it. I'm not going based on what anybody else said. That $15 million number, I think, is achievable if you're able to get 4 to 5 of these networks to sit down together and do it. The Mountain West already had Fox, CBS, and TNT. So they were able to get 3 to work together when it came to So if they can do that, you got the PAC that has CW, you got the PAC that has CW. ESPN might want to get involved. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. Could be a little interesting. We'll see how the ESPN wants to get involved. Right? It seems like you also got a few other entities that might want to enter into the world, the realm. Right? This might be something real interesting. You mess around and get Amazon. Amazon wants to step in. Apple wants to step in. You know, I don't know. Something crazy happens. But can you get 4 to 5 of them to sit down and be like, okay, we're willing to merge the conference. We'll go under the PAC name, Pacific Athletic Conference. God rest in peace, the Mountain West. But we'll be the Pacific Athletic Conference. Every school that we have added that is set to join in 2026 will also still be a part of this. Right at this point, we're willing to do, like I said, it's a long-term deal. This would not be something you do, 6 years. 6 years. No. I truly feel if you're to do this, they want their money's worth. They're going to want 12 to 18 years. But if it's 12 to 18 years, and your schools are getting 15 mil each, that's not bad at all. You could see some significant growth with a lot of programs in that time. You can see some real significant growth. NIU has never seen that type of money. So if you're telling me that in 6 years, NIU will have had $90 million come into the... In 7 years, $100 million into the athletics, like $100 million, over $100 million. 3, 6, 9, $105 million in 7 years. NIU has never seen that. UTEP probably ain't never seen that. Grand Canyon ain't never. There's multiple schools that have never seen those types of numbers. So I think it is possible. Even if it's only 13 million, I'll take it. And what you may actually be able to do, if this is now a $15 million payout, a school like NIU potentially can change things up. And they're like, full membership is now possible. Now, maybe NIU won't jump into that instantly right away, but full membership is possible. You got UC Davis. UC Davis is 3 seconds away from being a full member. Like, they're pretty close, right? They're going to eventually call up their football team. And yeah, well, let's shift the numbers around a little bit, right? We had to figure it out. We'll cross that bridge when we cross that bridge. We'll figure it out. But this is very much doable. We just got to lock it and make it happen. Like I said, get 4 to 5 to sit down at the table and be like, hey, this is what we got going on. We got to make something happen. Because we've seen now you had the Big 12 and the PAC. And both need a media rights deal, and yada, 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 yada. But you were never going to merge those two conferences. That wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to happen. But then again, could it have happened if things had been played a certain way? You now have the opportunity to do that with a handful of schools where you don't have to spend as much money, because it would have been different trying to get 2 power conferences to merge together to make one super stupid conference, and you're still about to pay each one of them $25 to $30 million a year. That's where that gets real expensive. This is a smaller, right. We're talking about smaller tier, a lower tier of things. 13 mil a year, 15 mil, right? We figure it out. 15 mil, sign me up. I'm merging. If a number over 15 were to get thrown out there, if they don't merge the next day, somebody needs to be arrested. If 4 or 5 media conglomerates came to them and they were like, okay, this is what we want y'all to do. Merge this damn conference. Merge the conference. We'll give y'all a 17 per mil, whatever the hell the number is. Each school gets paid handsomely. Merge the conference, but y'all are under contract with all of us for the next 24 years. 24 years, and we're paying y'all some nice, stupid amount of money. 18 mil, 20 mil. If somebody said, I'm going to pay you all $18 million a year, but you got to lock in for 24 years. We're talking about schools that have never seen that much money before. And they're actually finally kind of getting the opportunity to catch up. And some of them will most likely leave to join a power conference over time, right? They'll probably get added into a power conference as time goes. But like I said, they want you to lock into this long-term contract. I'm taking that deal. I'm being straight up with you. NIU has gone from barely making, I'm assuming, $1 million a year to now we're making 18 million. Well, we'd be a full member. 18 million a year. 20 million. Honestly, if they're making 20 mil a year, I really do believe you have to count them as a power conference at that point. I think. I don't know how the rules work on that, how the number, but you got to look at them a lot differently. If they're getting a $20 million payout per school per year for 19 schools for the next 24 years, that might as well be a power conference. Now, in reality, you compare them to the Big Ten, who's supposedly about to be getting 100 mil per school per year. Right? 20 mil ain't nothing when you compare it to the numbers that are about to be getting thrown around with the SEC and the Big Ten. That's why I'm like, it's not that unrealistic for me to maybe merge these schools, merge this conference, and be like, look, we'll pay y'all 15 mil a year, but 18 years is what y'all got to sign on to, right? And y'all can't come to the table to renegotiate or do anything like that until 14 years go by. I'm signing that. The ink ain't even gonna be dried by the time I put the thing out there. We are merging the conferences, and we're good. Everything is all love now, peace and rainbows and unicorns. We're sorry for all the stress and drama. Everybody be friends again, because everybody's getting paid, and that's all you should want for your school. That's what you should want for your university. If that happens, NIU we better start moving some money around, because now we got money coming in for real. We're damn near, we might as well be a power conference. NIU, y'all got to shift this budget around, because sports are serious. We need to step it up, not just in football, across the board. We need to no longer be the bottom of all of FBS when it comes to athletic budget. Step it up if we land some sort of crazy deal like that. I'm just saying, a merger could happen, and this is how that merger would happen. It would have to be multiple media partners interested in a long-term deal, because short-term ain't gonna happen. We will lock y'all in long-term under this set of expectations, yada, yada, yada. And you take that deal and you run with it, and you get everybody paid. You get everybody paid. Oregon State, Washington State, get with the program, dude. Like, y'all two can't be screwing over everybody else. Y'all take this deal, you take this deal, you could potentially get maybe a Memphis and Tulane down the line. Now, will it change the... we'll see how things go. But if y'all get something like that, keep things how they are and you're good. Keep things how they are and you're good. That's all that should matter. Everybody's going to grow like damn near exponentially. You will see exponential growth out of every program involved. It's that simple. It is that simple. I don't know what else to say. Peace.